how to assemble one of these 3000 lumen wall packs with a X10 battery backup with an external battery included as well. So the backup itself will be mounted on this plate, so that'll go right here. So I guess I'll start with that. So there goes the backup. Next is the battery, which will go right beside it, and it uses the same kind of screws. Okay. So the backup and the battery are now installed. So now we'll move over to the bracket. This is where the LED board is mounted, and we already have the wires installed coming right through here. So the driver itself will be mounted right on here. And again, uses the same 4 screws from earlier. Okay, so the driver is now mounted on the bracket, just like that. The dimming wires are capped off since we're not going to be using dimming for this fixture. So that's that. Now we can go ahead and install the bracket and the fixture. We have to mount the test switch for the backup. Ordinarily it comes attached to the backup right here, but I disconnected it just so it's easier to mount. Now for this fixture we're not going to be using a photoelectric switch. The port for the switch would go down here. As you can see, I uncovered it. This is where I'll be mounting the test switch. It fits nice and snug in there. The switch has now been installed, so now I'm just going to tidy up the wiring a little more. And now we can plug it in. So, just like that. Okay. So the black and gold wire will go to our hot wire, our live wire. Just like that. The neutral, obviously we'll go to the neutral line. And we also have to join this with our neutral from the driver. So we're going to have to use an extra wire just to kind of bridge that gap. Okay, and there we are. And now the solid black wire is going to go to our black input of our driver. So we're also going to have to use another wire for that. The gap is obviously a lot shorter when you close the fixture, but it makes it easier during disassembly if you have a lot more slack. Just to kind of tidy it up, just twist these wires together. Okay. Now, lastly, we have to wire up the output. So, the yellow from the backup will be going to the red from the driver. In other words, the output of the driver is going to, or the positive output of the driver is going to the yellow wire of the backup. And the negative lead of the output, the blue wire, is going to the brown. So red to yellow and blue to brown. So I'm just going to twist these up to kind of tidy it up a little bit. Just like that. Okay. And the last step is to connect the output. So basically what we're doing here is the output of the driver is coming into the backup. And this way we can use the output of the driver and also the emergency power through just one set of blue and red leads. So then this is our leads going to our LED module. So this is simply just red to red and blue to blue, or positive to positive, negative to negative. Oh, there we go. Okay. And that is everything. You do want to have all three of those neutral wires connected. The one from the pigtail, from the backup, and also from the driver over here. And so I think that about covers the output. Yeah, we have the output wired up. Same thing over here. So now let's try to close it up and turn it on, and we'll see what happens. Oh, actually, I just remembered. Don't forget to connect the battery to the backup. So here's the connector for the backup, and here's the one for the battery. So we'll just clip that on, just like that. And there we go. Go ahead and plug it in. Okay, and there we are. So as you can see, the LED module comes on. Now the red indicator switch is turned on. So now if I press this, or if I unplug it, the emergency power will turn on. So for now I'll just use the test switch. There we are. As you can see, it's not quite as bright as the driver since it is a backup system, but it should provide enough light in an emergency situation for at least 90 minutes. If I let go, driver turns back on. Now if I unplug it altogether, the same thing happens. If I plug it back in, the driver should turn back on. And there we go. Okay, so in this last clip we're going to show you how to hook up a photoelectric switch to the backup in case you're using one. For this demonstration I went ahead and undid the wiring. So here's our pigtail connector, right over here. These are the input wires of the backup, and these three are the input wires of the switch. And these two are our input wires of the driver. So you're going to want to keep the inverter going the entire time. So this will connect to the solid black wire of your pigtail. So you're going to have your golden black wire going to the black of your pigtail. And then you're also going to want to connect the black one of the switch. This way the switch is always getting power and the DC inverter is always getting power, so your battery will always be charging. So once you get the solid black of the inverter, the black of your pigtail, the black and gold of the inverter, and the black of the photoelectric switch will all be connected together, just like that. And like before, all the neutral wires get connected together. In this case, it's 4 of them. One from the driver, one from the backup, one from the switch, and one from our pigtail. May have to use a bigger one for this one. There we go. Okay, if you're going to be using a photoelectric switch, you actually do not need the solid black wire. This is where you would connect your switch if you had a switch line, but since we're using a photoelectric switch, we do not need one in this case. The photoelectric switch is basically acting as our switch line. So I'm just going to cap this off. There we are. So then the red of the photoelectric switch will go to the solid black of our driver, which is going over here. Once again, the solid black of the backup will not be used. This is because if you're continuously powering the black and gold wire through your pigtail, you're also continuously powering the solid black wire. And since you want it to be switched on and off by the photoelectric switch, we do not need this wire. Okay. Now what's important to note is that the red indicator light is still on. So if I press it, it still turns on. But the main power is still off because the photoelectric switch is sensing light. If I turn the power off, there goes the emergency power. Turn it back on. Battery goes back to charging, but the driver stays off because there's still light present. And there we go.